Chapter 434. When the two of them heard his voice, they immediately stopped kissing. When Gu Yanhao looked over unhappily, Aude had just left and was about to close the door. "Get in here!" Gu Yanhao shouted. Song Wuyo sat up straight. Fortunately, her clothes and hair were not messed up, but she was extremely embarrassed. "Young master." Aude came in and saw that Gu Yanhao's complexion and spirit were good. His worried heart finally relaxed. He was as worried as Song Wuyo that he would become stupid because of the concussion. Gu Yanhao looked at Aude maliciously. Obviously, he was very unhappy that Aude had interrupted his kiss. "Put the things down and get out," Gu Yanhao said in a low voice. "Okay." Aude put down the things and smiled at Gu Yanhao. "Young master, I'm relieved to see that you're strong and healthy. Thank goodness you didn't become stupid because of the concussion." "What did you say?" Gu Yanhao's eyes narrowed dangerously when he heard that. "I said, young madam has been very worried about young master these days. Young master, I'll go out first." After that, Aude slipped away as fast as he could. Seeing that he slipped away so quickly, Gu Yanhao snorted. "I didn't say that I was going to punish him. Why did he slip away so quickly? You looked so fierce just now." Song Wuyo laughed. "He was afraid that you would scold him." Gu Yanhao glanced at her coldly. "I was so hungry that I was interrupted halfway through my meal. How could I not be fierce?" Song Wuyo blushed and looked at Gu Yanhao reproachfully. She muttered, "You speak as if you haven't touched a woman for a few years. One day feels like 3 autumns. How long have I been unconscious? You're still thinking about that when you're injured. Gu Yanhao, your brain is getting muddier. I'm injured in the chest, not in the brain. Your brain is injured too. It's a concussion. I don't know if you've been shocked silly or influenced by Jianing. Sometimes, you're so cute that it makes me panic. I'm different from Jianing." Gu Yanhao stared at her. "If you compare me with Jianing again, I'll eat you whole." "Of course you can't compare with Jianing. You don't know how cute Jianing is. You, feed me, I'm starving." Song Wuyo opened the food box and said, "Your chest has been hanging outside for so long. Can you put on your clothes now? If you don't wear it, I will leave it hanging for you to see." Gu Yanhao smirked and looked at Song Wuyo. "Don't you think it's sexy? Even if you want to show me, you need to look at the occasion." "But it's too sexy. All the nurses here are attracted to it." Song Wuyo came over with the soup and rolled her eyes at him. "Are you showing this to me or the medical staff here?" "It's for you." Gu Yanhao was in a good mood. He took the hospital gown from the bedside and put it on. "Good boy." Song Wuyo sat on the chair and smiled sweetly at him. "Feed me." Who asked him to get injured to save her? She would serve him well. "How does it taste?" Song Wuyo asked with a smile as she fed him a spoonful of soup. Gu Yanhao looked at her seductively and smiled ambiguously. "It doesn't taste as good as yours." Song Wuyo smiled. "Are you not afraid that I will splash the soup on your face?" Gu Yanhao did not care. "I will be disfigured. If you want to see an ugly husband, you can splash it on me." Actually, the soup tasted very good. It was refreshing and nourishing. "You should drink it too. You take a sip and I will take a sip. This way, it will taste better." Gu Yanhao looked at Song Wuyo and said gently. "Okay." Song Wuyo scooped a spoonful of soup and put it into her mouth. The fragrance of the soup instantly filled her mouth. "Well, it's delicious. Sister Song's soup is very delicious." Chapter 435. After drinking the soup, they started eating. There were 2 dishes. One was for Gu Yanhao, and the other was for Song Wuyo. Looking at the 2 different dishes, Gu Yanhao sighed. Sister Song, you are a smart person. The dishes you prepared are all nourishing dishes, and the dishes I prepared are all aphrodisiac dishes. Forget it. Your dishes are bland. What aphrodisiac? Song Wuyo did not know what he was thinking. Could it be like what the netizens said? Men are either working hard or thinking about women. He must be bored out of his mind lying in the hospital, so his mind was filled with these messy thoughts. Who says bland dishes cannot be aphrodisiac? Song Wuyo laughed. Are you admitting that you can't do it? Gu Yanhao's face turned black when he heard this. He stared at Song Wuyo and shouted. You should know best if I can do it or not. Song Wuyo was overjoyed when she saw Dong Xuebing's reaction. Both of them ate and flirted with each other. They lived in bliss and did not mention anything about concubine Song and Dong Fangxian. Of course, Gu Yanhao was a narrow-minded person. Other than Ade, he refused to let anyone in. He did not want anyone to disturb him and Song Wuyo. After 3 more days of hospitalization, Gu Yanhao requested to be discharged from the hospital. Song Wuyo saw that Dong Xuebing was bored and energetic. She agreed to his request. Ade went to settle the discharge procedures for him, and Dong Xuebing and Song Wuyo walked out of the ward hand in hand. A sweet smile hung on Song Wuyo's beautiful face. Gu Yanhao's long and narrow eyes were smiling. Outsiders were envious of their relationship. They were even more envious that Song Wuyo was able to get Gu Yanhao's love. When they walked out of the main hall, Song Jiuyue appeared behind the Roman pillar at the entrance. She looked coldly at Song Wuyo, who was extremely happy, and her eyes were filled with jealousy. She had always thought that this happiness belonged to her. He was snatched away by Song Wuyo. If it weren't for Song Wuyo, she would be with the man she liked now. Damn it, she had not had the chance to carry out her plan for the past 3 days. Now that Gu Yanhao and her bodyguards were around, it was even more impossible for her to carry out her plan. Song Jiuyue really hated her. At this moment, the phone rang. She took it out in annoyance. When she saw that it was Madame G. calling, her gaze became even colder. This damned woman. Song Jiuyue hated Madame G. since she knew that Madame G. didn't like her being with her son. But she would never show it on her face. Instead, she had to pretend to be very obedient and sensible to please Madame Eyre. Hello, mother. Now that she was engaged, she called Lady Jier mother instead. This time, she called her mother quite sweetly and gently. Okay, I got it. I'll go back in a while. Don't worry, the child is also mine. Of course, I will pay attention to rest. Song Jiuyue smiled brightly. Mother, I will take good care of your grandson. Then I'm relieved. I'll ask the kitchen to make soup. You can drink it when you come back. After Madame G. hung up the phone, she had an elegant and dignified smile on her face. She ordered the kitchen, make some appetizing and nutritious dishes for Jiuyue. Simmer the soup for a while. Madam, you are so good to the young madam. The young madam is so happy to have a mother-in-law like you. The kitchen manager smiled. Madame G. sighed. No matter what, she is pregnant with the flesh and blood of the Qing family. Junhua will be the president in the future. Children are very important. Beep beep. Just as Madame G. finished sighing, the phone in her hand rang. Madame G. opened it. It was a stranger who wanted to add her. She didn't think too much and accepted. Before she could ask who the other party was, the other party sent her a long video call. Chapter 436. She thought it was a funny video, but when she opened it, she realized that it was Song Juyue's video. The background was the hospital, and she was standing alone in the empty corridor talking on the phone. Her voice was very clear, and she heard it clearly. As she listened, Mrs. G Air's expression changed. Song Juyue wasn't pregnant. She actually wanted to take the opportunity to frame Worryless and make them think that Worryless caused her miscarriage. Mrs. G Air's face turned green with anger. She didn't expect Song Juyue to be so vicious. It was bad enough that she lied to them, but she even wanted to frame someone else. How could Junhwa like such a vicious woman and insist on getting engaged to her? Mrs. G Air suddenly realized that it couldn't be that Song Juyue lied to him about her pregnancy, so he got engaged to her, right? At this moment, Mrs. G Air heard movement from the living room. She hurried out and saw the tall Ching Junhwa walking in. When he saw her, Ching Junhwa's hawk-like eyes didn't show much emotion. His thin lips were tightly pursed, and he looked extremely cold. Mrs. G Air walked over and handed him the phone. Her tone was a little unpleasant. Junhwa, look. Ching Junhwa's sharp eyes swept past Mrs. G Air, then lowered his eyes and looked at the short video clip that was playing on WeChat. When he heard the words and the woman, his eyes suddenly narrowed, and there was a sense of danger in them. When Song Juyue returned to the Ching family villa, it was half an hour later. There was a servant in the living room arranging flowers. Song Juyue took off her shoes and saw that the servant was arranging the daffodils that she hated the most. Her face darkened, and she completely treated herself as the mistress of the house. She said to the servant coldly, "Remove all the flowers and change them to red roses." The servant glanced at her indifferently. "Madam likes daffodils the most. She will be happy to see such beautiful daffodils. If she likes them, why doesn't she take them back to her room?" "I like roses, change them to roses." The servant glanced at her disdainfully. "If you like roses, why don't you put them back to your room? You're just a servant here. Do you know who I am? How dare you treat me like this?" Song Juyue was very angry. In order to make it easier for her to take care of the child in her womb, Madame G Air asked her to move to the Ching residence. Song Juyue was very impolite. After she moved in, she relied on the fact that she was pregnant and ordered the servants to do this and that. When Madame Jill was not around, she even put on the airs of a hostess. Previously, the servants were all obedient to her. How dare they talk back to her today? The proud and arrogant Song Juyue couldn't bear the humiliation. Even if she wasn't married, she was still the eldest young mistress of the Ching family. If Madame G Air were to die, she would be the mistress of the house. These dog-like servants really didn't know what was good for them and dared to make her suffer. The servant didn't take Song Juyue seriously at all. With her back to her, she continued to put the flowers into the vase carefully. "You damn dog!" Song Juyue came forward aggressively. Looking at her attitude, she was going to teach this maid a lesson. "Juyue, you're back." Madame G Air's voice was always so pleasant to the ears. It was neither fast nor slow and melodious like the sound of a zither. Upon hearing this voice, Song Juyue quickly turned around and saw Madame G Air in a cheongsam coming in from outside. She was dignified and elegant, generous and gentle. Song Juyue's expression suddenly changed. She smiled and said, "Yes, Mom. Today's daffodils are really beautiful." After speaking, Song Juyue reached out and wanted to ask the servant for a flower. Not only did the servant not give her any, she also didn't give her any face. "Didn't you say you wanted to change the roses?" Chapter 437. When Song Juyue heard this, her face became very cold in a place where Madame G Air could not see. She glared at this maid coldly. What a damn dog. When I completely become the mistress of this residence, I'll teach you a lesson. I like roses, but I think daffodils are not bad either. When Song Jiuyue looked at Madame G. Eyre, she had a smile on her face again. Madame G. Eyre smiled and said, "If you like roses, then change them to roses." Then she said to the maid, "Young madam likes roses. Xiaolan, change the roses." Xiaolan's attitude towards Madame G. Eyre was very respectful. "Madam, the roses have not fully bloomed yet. I haven't cut them today." Madame G. Eyre smiled and said, "Then cut some tomorrow." Xiaolan, "Okay, madam." Song Jiuyue looked at them with a smile. Seeing that Xiaolan's attitude towards Madame G. Eyre was too different from her attitude towards her, she felt indignant. She was also the madam of the Qing family. Madame G. Eyre came forward and looked at Song Jiuyue amiably. "Jiuyue, Junhua is in the study. Go up and ask him to come down for dinner." Song Jiuyue nodded like an obedient daughter-in-law and smiled. "Okay." Song Jiuyue gently pushed open the door of Qing Junhua's study. As soon as the door was pushed open, she felt a suffocating pressure spreading in the air. Qing Junhua stood in front of the window with his hands behind his back. His figure was tall and his back was straight and healthy. His entire body exuded a noble, domineering, and kingly aura. Standing with his hands behind his back, he was like a god overlooking the entire world, making people feel intimidated. Song Jiuyue pursed her lips. She had to admit that Qing Junhua was handsome and noble. He, Gu Yanhao, and Migu were known as the three most beautiful men in M City. He and Gu Yanhao's beauty were on the same line, but their temperaments were completely different. Gu Yanhao's handsomeness gave people the feeling of a banished immortal. Qing Junhua's handsomeness, on the other hand, gave people the impression of a demon emperor. Song Jiuyue thought to herself that since she couldn't get Gu Yanhao, becoming Qing Junhua's wife wasn't a bad idea either. But when she thought of how well he treated Qing Wanduo, she felt like there was a thorn in her heart. Song Jiuyue walked over and wanted to hug this handsome man from behind like a gentlewoman. Unexpectedly, before her hands could touch him, the man suddenly turned around and waved his hand. Song Jiuyue felt a sharp pain in her face and a buzzing sound in her ears. She fell to the ground. She used one elbow to support her trembling body. Her vision was dizzy and she couldn't react for a long time. Blood flowed from the corner of his mouth, and a fishy smell spread. Song Jiuyue felt wronged. Her eyes were hot and her face was red and swollen. She abruptly turned her head. With tears in her eyes, she stared hatefully at Qing Junhua, who was standing there like a demon. "How dare you lie to me?" Qing Junhua bent down and grabbed Song Jiuyue by the throat. Just like that, he lifted her up. His gaze was like a crazy demon as he glared at Song Jiuyue with a bloodthirsty gaze. His voice was incomparably cold. "Do you know the consequences of lying to me?" Song Jiuyue's eyes flashed with a hint of doubt. For a moment, she couldn't remember what she had lied to him about. "How dare you lie to my entire family with your pregnancy?" Qing Junhua's fingers tightened as he had the urge to choke her to death. "That's..." Cough cough. Just as she was about to speak, her throat felt itchy. Song Jiuyue closed her eyes for a moment to let her tears flow out. When she opened them again, there was no hatred in her eyes this time around. Instead, there was a hint of mockery as she looked at Qing Junhua in disdain. Looking at her provocative gaze, Qing Junhua was enraged and choked her tightly. Chapter 438. Song Jiuyue looked at Qing Junhua with a face full of stubbornness and disdain. "Aren't you afraid of death?" Qing Junhua shouted angrily. He waved his arm and shook off Song Jiuyue. Song Jiuyue fell to the ground again. "Ah, Song Juyue let out 2 mocking laughs. Then she slowly raised her head and looked at Qing Junhua fearlessly. So what if I lied to you? If I didn't lie to you, would you get engaged to me so quickly? Qing Junhua looked down at her coldly. Do you think you can marry into the Qing family smoothly just because of the engagement? I can break off the engagement. Break it, Song Juyue didn't care at all. Don't forget, your engagement this time caused a sensation in the whole country. Guess, if I tell the media that you got engaged to me because you wanted me to kill Ban Jianing, what kind of reaction will the whole country have? Qing Junhua's face was gloomy and cold as he stared at Song Juyue. Do you think I can't do anything to you? Song Juyue smiled contemptuously. I've been keeping that recording pen. Qing Junhua smiled coldly. He squatted down and pinched Song Juyue's chin. Do you really think I'm so stupid that I didn't leave a way out for myself? Let me tell you, I've tampered with that recording pen. All the recorded words will be kept for 3 days. After 3 days, it will be formatted and there will be nothing in it. Song Juyue heard this and her eyes widened. She looked at Qing Junhua in disbelief. You're so despicable. Qing Junhua said, just tell the media. If you don't want the Song group to become history, if you don't want Song Nan to reunite with your mother and sister immediately, and if you don't want to die too badly, just say it. Song Juyue felt a chill down her spine. Qing Junhua, you're very scary. Qing Junhua's eyes were like a ghost and his face was gloomy. I've done more terrible things, not to mention a few lives. Song Juyue, taking your and Song Nan's lives is as easy as crushing an ant for me. What about Ban Jianing? Song Juyue provoked him. It's not that easy to kill Ban Jianing, is it? Suddenly, Qing Junhua grabbed Song Juyue's throat again. Damned woman, how dare you provoke me? I'm telling the truth. Ban Jianing will die in my hands sooner or later. In the past, Ban Jianing was small, and Qing Junhua didn't know of his existence. When he found out about the Ban family and Ban Jianing's existence, he wanted to get rid of Ban Jianing. However, the people sent to the mental hospital would be stopped and interrupted every time they tried. Qing Junhua suspected that someone was secretly protecting that idiot in the mental hospital, but he still couldn't find out who that person was. If it was Gu Yanhao, then Gu Yanhao also knew about the Ban family's sudden demise. Therefore, a hint of ruthlessness flashed in Qing Junhua's eyes. Gu Yanhao and Ban Jianing had to die. Yes, there was also Song Wuyo. She was also an eyesore. He wouldn't feel at ease until he got rid of her. That dead man, Ban Dekeng, was too popular. Until now, there were still many people who missed the good days when he was president. If people found out that Ban Dekeng was murdered, it would definitely cause public anger. At that time, it would be a small matter if the whole country opposed his uncle being president, but it would be a big matter if he couldn't be president. Don't think that I don't know who Ban Jianing is. You're so anxious to kill him. Could he be the only child left behind by the former president? You're afraid that he'll steal the presidency from you, right? Song Juyue said coldly. Qing Junhua stared at Song Juyue coldly. Aren't you also afraid that Qing Wanduo will steal the presidency from you? Chapter 439. Song Juyue looked straight into his eyes. Don't you like Qing Wanduo? Qing Junhua's eyes were as cold as ice. I only like women who are useful to me. Song Juyue said, you're using us. Qing Junhua said, otherwise, do you think it's so easy to be Madam President? Your lives and Song Nan's are in my hands. You have to listen to me. Qing Junhua dragged her up and threw her on the desk. The documents on the desk fell to the ground. Qing Junhua was unbuttoning his shirt. Song Juyue looked at him with a panicked expression. What are you doing? Ching Junhua sneered. Why are you pretending to be innocent? Of course, I'm trying to get you pregnant as soon as possible. Otherwise, how can I explain to the president? After that, Ching Junhua got down on her. Song Juyue gripped the edge of the desk tightly with both hands. She felt that Ching Junhua was doing this to her. It was a kind of humiliation, not love. It hurt so much that tears welled up in her eyes. In her blurred vision, she seemed to see a familiar and handsome figure that could make her heart beat like thunder every time. It's you. Song Juyue cursed in her heart. Gu Yanhao, it's you. You're the one who pushed me to this point. I like you so much. Why did you marry Song Wuyo, that bastard? Thinking of Song Wuyo, Song Juyue's eyes were full of hatred. Song Wuyo, one day, I'll kill you with my own hands. Just you wait. Bitch, bitch. Achoo, achoo. Sitting cross-legged on the blanket, the two of them sneezed loudly at the same time. Have you caught a cold? They looked at each other with concern and asked in unison. The air conditioner isn't on. Song Wuyo said, I don't feel cold. Although it was late autumn, they wouldn't catch a cold indoors. Why were they sneezing? Gu Yanhao chuckled. I miss you. Song Wuyo blinked and looked at him with sparkling eyes. Am I not right in front of you? You're nothing in front of me. You're already in my heart. Gu Yanhao stood up. All right, time to meditate. Song Wuyo also stood up. How are you feeling? Very good. What about the wound? Gu Yanhao stretched out his arm and pulled his beloved woman into his embrace as he charmingly smiled. It doesn't hurt anymore. If you don't believe me, I can prove it with actual combat. Song Wuyo clicked her tongue and said, your wound healed quite quickly. Gu Yanhao planted a kiss on her forehead. With my wife's caress, how could I not recover quickly? He hugged her, and both of them fell onto the bed. The two of them lay on their sides, facing each other. Their eyes were filled with love. Song Wuyo. Gu Yanhao caressed Song Wuyo's delicate face. Song Wuyo's eyes were pitch black and clear. They were as dazzling as black pearls, sparkling and beautiful. There was a sweet smile in them as she gazed at Gu Yanhao. Do you like it? Gu Yanhao curled his lips, his eyes mesmerizing. Like what? Song Wuyo's eyes flashed with a hint of confusion. Do you like this world? Yes. In the beginning, she felt very lonely. But now, she didn't feel that way anymore. That was because she had found a place to belong. When a person hasn't found a place to belong, even in a bustling world, they would feel lonely and lonely. But when they found a place to belong, even if there were only the two of them in this world, she wouldn't be afraid. Song Wuyo hugged his waist tightly and sent herself into his embrace. I'm liking this world more and more. Because this world has you. Gu Yanhao was very satisfied with her words and even more so with her behavior. The corners of his lips curled up into a smile. Chapter 440. Your words reminded me of the name of a book. Gu Yanhao rubbed her shoulders and said gently. The man's voice was deep and pleasing to the ears. What? Song Wuyo raised her head and looked at him with sparkling eyes. I don't like this world. I only like you. The man looked at the woman's sparkling eyes affectionately and said softly. Song Wuyo's heart skipped a beat when she heard that. Her eyes were filled with tenderness as she smiled. What should I do? I like this world a lot. I'll let you live a happier life in this world. Gu Yanhao held her little hand and placed it on his heart. Can you feel it? Song Wuyo smiled. Yes. What did you feel? Song Wuyo smiled. A thick layer of gauze. Song Wuyo, that's not what I meant. Gu Yanhao was displeased when he heard that and glared at her. Let me ask you, can you feel my love for you? Song Wuyo smiled sweetly. Actually, I'm wrapped in happiness right now. Gu Yanhao curled his lips and smiled. I like that. When my injuries are better, I'll make you even happier. After half a second of silence, he smiled evilly. I'll make you feel good too. Song Wuyo scolded as her cheeks flushed red. You said that I'm annoying. What did you think of that made you think that I'm annoying? Gu Yanhao reached out his hand. Ah ho, stop fooling around. I'm in good spirits right now. But you're not in good health. Who said that? Gu Yanhao was displeased. How dare she say that he was not in good health? I'm referring to your injuries. You can't use your strength for the time being. Gu Yanhao's eyes were deep. I can't. Can you? Song Wuyo suddenly realized that she had said something wrong. Honey, we have to work hard to get results. We have to work hard to farm. When I was in class, the teacher always talked about this principle. If you cultivate, you will definitely have a harvest. If you don't cultivate, you will definitely not have a harvest. What did you get? What do you plant? Song Wuyo pretended to be ignorant. He even used the lessons taught by the teacher. Of course it's to harvest the fruits of our love. As for farming, you know what I mean. You're already in this state, why are you still not being honest? Song Wuyo was speechless. With such a husband, she was destined to be very tired. As it turned out, she was really tired. Afterwards, she was so tired that she lay on the bed to rest. After Gu Yanhao had his fill, he went to the balcony and sat on a chair to work. Song Wuyo glanced at him and pursed her lips. Why was a man so energetic? He was truly in awe. Bored, Song Wuyo took out her phone and browsed through the news. There was a piece of news about the relationship between the second young master of the Qing family and the daughter of a rich family. This matter was written very clearly. Even the photos from before had been posted online. When Song Wuyo saw this piece of news, she was puzzled. She mumbled. Qing Junhua. Didn't he get together with Muxin for a long time? Why did the news say that he started dating this rich family's daughter half a year ago? Could it be that Muxin was cheated by him? Song Wuyo was furious when she thought about how Muxin was cheated. How could this Qing Junhua treat Muxin like this? Qing Junhua is handsome and comes from a wealthy family. There are dozens of women who want to sleep with him. Also, this rich family's daughter is quite pretty from the photos. Which man doesn't like her? Qing Junhua couldn't resist the temptation and dated Muxin. At the same time, he was with this rich family's daughter. This is not surprising. Gu Yanhao said calmly as he looked at the laptop on the table. Chapter 441. Song Wuyo frowned. In that case, Qing Junhua betrayed Muxin a long time ago. Muxin is beautiful and cheerful. Mrs. Ji likes her so much. Qing Junhua followed his mother's wishes and dated Muxin. Marrying Muxin wouldn't be a problem. Which man doesn't like his woman to have a devastatingly beautiful face and a beautiful figure? Muxin just happens to have reached this point. Song Wuyo nodded. Muxin was indeed very beautiful. However, a young master like Qing Junhua might not keep his chastity to a woman and only fall in love with one woman. Besides, so many women are throwing themselves at him like flies. It would be a waste not to eat them. Gu Yanhao analyzed. Song Wuyo thought for a moment and looked at the so-called rich young lady in the photo. Her legs were long, her chest was big, and her butt was perky. Her figure was much more seductive than Mushin's. Her long wavy hair reached her waist, and her tight clothes made one's imagination run wild. If this woman took the initiative to stick to Qing Junguo's arms, would Qing Junguo reject her? Song Wuyo suddenly thought of something. She narrowed her eyes and looked at Gu Yanhao. Men don't reject women who take the initiative to come to them. They feel that since they've already come to them, it would be a waste not to eat them. Gu Yanhao looked at the computer screen and said casually. What about you? Song Wuyo asked. When Gu Yanhao heard that, he paused and looked up at Song Wuyo. You're more mature and more handsome than Qing Junguo. There are many women who take the initiative to come to you, right? How many have you eaten? Gu Yanhao raised his eyebrows and smiled faintly. Guess. Song Wuyo pursed her lips. I can't guess. Song Wuyo, in my eyes, they're all flies, not women. I'm a man. Would I care about flies? Why would flies like men? They like feces. Song Wuyo joked. When Gu Yanhao heard this, his face instantly darkened. He narrowed his eyes dangerously. Woman, are you saying that I'm feces? Song Wuyo protested, I'm innocent. I didn't say that. Gu Yanhao's face darkened. That's exactly what you mean. What I'm trying to say is that you shouldn't think of them as flies. Gu Yanhao raised his eyebrows and looked deeply at Song Wuyo. Ah ho, Mushin broke up with Qing Junguo, Song Wuyo said. When Gu Yanhao heard this, he only raised his eyebrows slightly. Song Wuyo told Gu Yanhao the reason why they broke up. It's good for Mushin to break up with a man like Qing Junguo who's two-timing, Gu Yanhao said indifferently. He wasn't very interested in Mushin's matters. However, Song Wuyo was furious. I didn't expect Song Zhuyue to be so despicable. Hating me is enough, but even Mushin is involved. Mushin breaking up with Qing Junguo was a small matter. Mushin's reputation being ruined was a big deal. Gu Yanhao looked deeply at Song Wuyo. This silly woman, Gu Yanhao felt that the video might have been taken by someone else. Although that video happened to be the day Ban Jianing was injured, Mushin was helping Ban Jianing shower while Song Zhuyue was at the ranch. However, it didn't mean that Song Zhuyue had done it. Actually, Gu Yanhao wasn't the least bit interested in who had taken the video and then announced it to the public. Sister. Just then, Ban Jianing's voice came from outside the door. Song Wuyo tidied her hair and clothes, got out of bed, and opened the door. Ban Jianing was wearing a beige casual outfit, and he looked much more sunny. After the surgery, Song Wuyo paid a lot of attention to his diet. He ate well and slept well. He had gained weight, and he didn't look as thin and weak as when he had just escaped from the mental hospital. Chapter 442. Sister, I'm so bored, Ban Jianing said as he looked at Song Wuyo. Aren't you going to play with Ade and Su Jing? Song Wuyo asked gently. No. Ban Jianing pouted. Ade often doesn't smile. I don't like him. What about Su Jing? Su Jing often smiled. She's a girl. I don't want to play with her. As for women, I only play with Mushin. Ban Jianing pouted. Play games and watch TV. This was the best entertainment to pass the time. No. Ban Jianing stomped his feet. Playing games and watching TV are even more boring. I don't want to. What does Ban Jianing want to do? Song Wuyo looked at him with a smile. Her eyes were gentle and kind. I want to play with Mushin. I haven't played with Mushin in a long time. Ban Jianing stomped his feet again. The way he stomped his feet was quite funny. Mushin has been busy recently, Song Wuyo said. I don't want. Ban Jianing started to make a fuss. I want Mushin, I want Mushin, I want Mushin, I want Mushin, 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 okay. Jianing, don't make a fuss. I want to ask if Mushin is free. Song Wuyo really didn't know what to do with Ban Jianing. Ban Jianing immediately stopped making a fuss. He nodded and looked at Song Wuyo faintly. Sister, you must help me ask. Okay. Song Wuyo returned to get her phone and called Mushin. On the other end of the phone, Mushin's tone sounded like she was in a bad mood. Song Wuyo frowned slightly. Wait for me. I'll accompany you. Gu Yanhao walked in from the balcony. He raised his eyebrows and looked at Song Wuyo. You're going out. Mushin is in M City. She's at Dongyang Hotel now. I'll bring her back, Song Wuyo said. Gu Yanhao, I'll go with you. Song Wuyo nodded. Yes. Then, she looked at Ban Jianing. Ban Jianing was standing at the door, looking at her adorably and expectantly. Song Wuyo smiled and said, Jianing, stay here obediently and don't run around. Sister and brother-in-law will go and bring Mushin back. When Ban Jianing heard this, he was very happy. All right, sister, you have to be quick. Song Wuyo smiled and said, okay, I'll be quick. Mu Axian knew that Qing Junguo was at Dongyang Hotel, so she came to find him. However, the hotel staff did not tell him which floor and which room it was. For the past few days, no matter how she looked for him or called him, he avoided her. When she went to the Qing residence to look for him, even Madame Ji Er did not want to see her, let alone other people. Although that video wasn't posted on the internet, however, there were a lot of people at the banquet, including a few rich ladies from the same school as her. Now, the whole school was pointing fingers at her, saying that she didn't know what was good for her. She had betrayed Qing Junguo and served another man. Now, Mu Axian could not say anything. That person was not a man. At most, he was a retarded boy. However, what was the use? No one would believe her. Even if they knew that Ban Jianing was retarded, they would still think that she had betrayed Qing Junguo. She had always regarded Qing Junguo as her most beloved man. She had always thought that she could marry him after graduation. She did not expect things to develop like this. Being pointed fingers at in school and Qing Junguo ignoring her, she felt completely disheartened. Living was more painful than dying. She had been waiting at the hotel for almost 3 hours. Heaven did not let down those who waited. Finally, she saw that familiar figure walking out of the hotel. Mu Axian, who was sitting against the Roman pillar of the hotel, was delighted when she saw him. She immediately stood up and went forward nervously. Chapter 443. She had just taken 2 steps when she saw a fashionably dressed woman following behind Qing Junguo. Mu Axian was stunned as she stood rooted to the ground, looking at them in a daze. Seeing her, Qing Junguo's face darkened as he stretched out his arm and hugged the woman behind him. The woman also saw Mu Axian. She raised her chin and smiled smugly. Qing Junguo pretended not to know Mu Axian and left from the other side. Mu Axian hurried forward, her eyes red as she pleaded, Junguo, can we talk? Qing Junguo no longer looked at Mu Axian with tenderness or amazement. Now, his eyes were filled with disdain and annoyance. What else is there to talk about between us? I've already announced to everyone that we've broken up. At least, you have to listen to my explanation. It's not fair for you to break up with me like this, Mu Axian said sadly. Not fair. Qing Junguo sneered. You're with another man behind my back. Is that fair to me? He's not another man. He's just a person with the IQ of a 5-year-old. Huh, you're really desperate. You won't even let off a mentally handicapped person. Muaxian's eyes overflowed with tears as she choked. It's not what you think. Qing Junguo was expressionless. I don't care what happened. In the end, we broke up. Junguo. Muaxian looked at him sadly. Don't put on a pitiful look in front of Junguo. Mushin, no man would be able to accept his woman betraying him. The fashionable woman hugged Qing Junguo's arm tightly, silently announcing her current status. Muaxian looked at this woman. Seeing that this woman was so intimate with Qing Junguo and even came out of the hotel together, her heart felt like it was being cut by a knife. Qing Junguo looked at Muaxian indifferently. To tell you the truth, I've been with her for a long time. We came to the hotel today to book a place and prepare for the engagement. Hearing that, Muaxian's mind buzzed. She looked at Qing Junguo in disbelief. What did you say? She pointed at the woman leaning on him with trembling fingers and asked with a pained heart, You want to get engaged to her? We've been together for half a year, Qing Junguo said coldly. Muaxian's heart ached as if it had been pierced by thousands of arrows. She asked sadly, So you're saying that you betrayed me long ago? Qing Junguo laughed mockingly. The gaze he used to look at Mushin was as cold as ice. We're the same. I advise you to give up and stop pestering Junguo. Junguo is the second young master of the Qing family. He has a noble status. You're just a spoiled daughter with no family background. Now you're fooling around with another man. With your status, do you have the qualifications to marry into the Qing family? I didn't want to hurt you, but since you're so thick-skinned and insist on pestering my boyfriend, I'll tell you a piece of good news. I'm pregnant. As she spoke, the woman gently covered her lower abdomen with her hand and looked at Muaxian proudly. The Qing family values this child very much, so you won't have a chance. Mushin stared at the woman's stomach with a pale face. She was actually pregnant. Qing Junguo looked at the woman gently and said in a gentle voice, Let's go. Mom and Dad are still waiting for us to have dinner. With that said, Qing Junguo did not look at Muaxian anymore as he pulled the woman's hand and left. Muaxian felt that she still had a lot of things to say to Qing Junguo. Seeing that he was about to leave, she ran up in a hurry and grabbed Qing Junguo's arm. Junguo, give me some time. I'll prove to you that I didn't betray you. Chapter 444. Go away. Qing Junguo shouted at her impatiently. I'm pregnant too. Muaxian's face was covered in tears. I'm pregnant with your child too. Qing Junguo was shocked at first, then he sneered. Who knows if this child is mine or not? It's yours. I only have you as my man. Muaxian grabbed Qing Junguo's arm tightly. This kind of nonsense is ironic. Qing Junguo was irritated and angry. He swung his arm hard. Muaxian was flung out and fell on the steps. Her lower abdomen just happened to hit the edge of the steps. Qing Junguo didn't even look at her. He pulled the woman's hand and quickly left the scene. Junguo, Muaxian called out to him in despair. She wanted to get up, but when she exerted strength, pain suddenly came from her lower abdomen, causing her to fall back. Ah! Her lower abdomen hurt. Before she could react to the cause of the abdominal pain, a warm current flowed out from her lower body. Muaxian was shocked. Her face was pale. She lowered her head and looked at her lower body. Blood slowly flowed out from her pants. Ah! Muaxian burst into tears at the sight of this blood. A Land Rover stopped in front of the hotel. The car door opened. Song Wuyo hurriedly got out from inside. Muaxian. Song Wuyo saw Mu Axayan sitting on the ground crying. Her heart ached a little. When she wanted to help her up, she saw blood on her buttocks. Her expression changed. You, get lost. Mu Axayan suddenly pushed away Song Wuyo's hand and glared at her. Don't pretend here. If it weren't for you, Junguo wouldn't treat me like this. Mu Axayan, you are pregnant. Song Wuyo saw that more and more blood was flowing from her lower body. It didn't seem like she was on her period. Her heart tightened. So what? Thanks to you, I was abandoned. Junguo is going to be engaged to the Qin family's eldest daughter. She's even pregnant with the Qing family's child. Mu Axayan was heartbroken. Her last sentence was almost roared out. Ah! After shouting, her lower abdomen hurt even more. I'll take you to the hospital. Song Wuyo didn't care about her mood. She helped her up and sent her to the car. Hospital. Mu Axayan stared blankly into the distance. Song Wuyo sat in front of the bed with a glass of ginger wine in her hand. She looked at her with a pained expression. Have some ginger wine, Mushin. She had a miscarriage, so she asked Sister Song to kill a chicken and bought some old ginger. She cooked it with rice wine and sent it to Mushin to drink. Jiangjiu was good for women. It warmed the stomach, nourished the body, and even warmed the womb. Mushin's expression was sorrowful. She didn't even blink as she stared at one spot. She completely treated Song Wuyo as heir. You can blame me, but don't make a fuss about your health, Song Wuyo said. The child is gone. Mushin sobbed, her voice hoarse. It was unknown whether she was crying or if she had been anesthetized in the Qing palace. You're still young. Take care of your body. So what if I've recovered? Mu Axayan smiled bitterly. Tears flowed from the corners of her eyes. Even if my body is well, can I still bear a child for Junguo? Give birth to a child for the man who loves you. Junguo doesn't love you. I saw the news today. It said that he had already been together with a rich man's daughter half a year ago. He's two-timing. He's not sincere to you. He's not worthy of you being so infatuated with him, Song Wuyo said coldly. Mu Axayan blinked. Her tears flowed slowly. There was a hint of apology in her tear-filled eyes. Sister Wuyo, please don't take what I said at the hotel entrance to heart. I was very heartbroken and sad at that time. That's why I spoke without thinking. Song Wuyo smiled and said, if scolding and hitting me can make you feel better, I'm happy to be your tool to vent your anger temporarily. Chapter 445. Mu Axayan's heart ached even more when she heard that, and her tears flowed even more fiercely. I knew that Jianing would like you when he saw you, but I still asked him to meet you at the ranch. Song Wuyo looked deeply at Mu Axayan and sighed deeply. Mu Axayan's eyes flashed with confusion. What did she mean by Jianing would like her when he saw her? Mu Axayan didn't think too much about this question. She didn't want to think about Ban Jianing now. Her child was gone. The doctor said that if she hadn't been so emotional and had come to the hospital in time, the baby could have been saved. However, she had been in a bad mood and yelled at Song Wuyo, which had completely killed her child. Song Wuyo reached out and stroked the hair on Mu Axayan's forehead. She comforted her softly. Mu Axayan, don't blame yourself. Perhaps you were right to break up with Qing Junguo. If you hadn't broken up, that woman would have come to you with a pregnant belly one day, or show up at your wedding with the child. How much pain would you have felt then? Qing Junguo doesn't believe you, but we believe you. You're innocent. You didn't betray him. Take care of yourself and wait for the man who loves you to appear. I believe that he's already on his way here. When Song Wuyot said this, Ban Jianing, who was protected by bodyguards, rushed into the hospital. Under the lead of Ade, he went straight to Muaxian's ward. Many years later, it was true that the man who loved Muaxian was on his way to her place. "Come, drink some ginger wine." Song Wuyo looked at Muaxian gently. "My heart aches when I see you like this. Sister Wuyo, do you think there will be a man who truly loves me?" Muaxian asked in a hoarse voice. "Yes." Song Wuyo nodded. "Everyone will find a partner who truly loves them in their life. The premise is that you have to live well. Otherwise, when he sees you, he will feel sorry for you. Do you want him to feel sorry for you? No. If you don't, get up and drink ginger wine. My heart aches when I think of Junhua. Then don't think about him. If you have to think about him, you have to think about why he's two-timing. Why was he with Chen something when he was dating you and even got her pregnant?" Mushin's eyes brightened. Hearing this, she suddenly felt a chill in her heart. "Don't think too much. I'll feed you." Mushin struggled to sit up. "Let me do it. If Brother Aho sees you feeding me, he will look at me as if he wants to eat me. All right, finish this bowl of ginger wine." Song Wuyo smiled in relief. She was happy that Muaxian could drink. Muaxian sat down, took the bowl, and drank a mouthful. The ginger wine was very fragrant, but it was a little spicy. Luckily, Muaxian could drink. Mushin, Mushin." At this moment, Ban Jianing hurriedly walked in. His expression was full of nervousness and worry. He came to the front of the bed and stood there, sizing up Muaxian from head to toe. To be honest, Muaxian was a little annoyed when she saw him. After all, he was the one who pestered her to help him bathe, which led to the video being leaked. Muaxian glanced at Ban Jianing indifferently. She didn't say anything and drank the ginger wine. Just now, she thought that the ginger wine tasted good, but now it was bitter. Seeing that Mushin was ignoring him, Ban Jianing turned around and looked at Song Wuyo sadly with a pout. "Sister, does Mushin not like me? Mushin isn't feeling well. She doesn't want to talk or smile," Song Wuyo said tactfully. If she said that Mushin didn't like him, he would be upset. "When I heard that brother-in-law said that Mushin was hospitalized, I was so worried, so I rushed over." Ban Jianing looked at Mushin again, his cute face full of concern. "Mushin, where do you hurt?" Chapter 446. My whole body hurts. Muaxian's tone is very bad. I secretly heard brother-in-law say to Sister Song that you had a miscarriage. What kind of injury is a miscarriage? Why did you have a miscarriage? Hearing the word miscarriage, Muaxian's heart hurts, so painful that her breathing is not smooth. "Jianing, you asked so many questions, how did Muaxian answer you?" Song Wuyo pulled Ban Jianing and let him sit on the chair next to her. Ban Jianing faintly looked at Muaxian's eyes and said very unhappily, "Muaxian cried, her eyes are red and swollen. Muaxian is in pain. Muaxian has to be good." Ban Jianing stretched out his hand and patted Muaxian's head. Muaxian's action of drinking the ginger wine paused. She was very disgusted with Ban Jianing patting her head like this. What good? Did he think of her as a retard? Muaxian raised her eyes and faintly glanced at Ban Jianing. If he doesn't appear in front of her, she will always be very obedient. Meeting her unfriendly gaze, Ban Jianing's heart is very painful. He unhappily curled his lips. He is obviously a very handsome person, but he is so silly and cute. Muaxian doesn't want to see him like this. She hates Ban Jianing's appearance. Although he is handsome and cute, she feels that he is incomparably childish. In short, fool. Who would like to stay with a fool? If you stay for a long time, you will also become a fool. It is simply lowering your IQ. Mu Axian was too lazy to look at Ban Jianing again. She lowered her head and absent-mindedly drank the ginger wine. Song Wuyo saw Mu Axian's annoyance towards Ban Jianing. Song Wuyo slightly pursed her lips and deeply looked at Ban Jianing. Their two faces are so similar to her younger brother and sister-in-law. However, her feelings and personality had undergone a 360-degree change. Song Wuyo remembers that in her previous life, it was her sister-in-law who liked her younger brother first. Her mother said that she originally wanted her younger brother to marry another woman. After her sister-in-law heard this, she was afraid that her younger brother would marry another woman, so she hurriedly asked her parents to come and propose marriage. After her younger brother found out later, he felt that his sister-in-law was a woman who dared to love and dared to do things. She had a personality, so he doted on her. But now, the style has completely changed. After Migu arrived at the hospital, Song Wuyo and Ban Jianing left. Back at the manor, Ban Jianing seemed to be very unhappy. He went upstairs gloomily and locked himself in his room. He bumped into Gu Yanhao downstairs and pouted. He glanced at Gu Yanhao unhappily without greeting him. Gu Yanhao held the handrail and stood there, looking doubtfully at Ban Jianing, who was exuding displeasure all over. It was not until he went upstairs that Gu Yanhao came down and asked Song Wuyo, "What happened to my brother-in-law? Shouldn't he be happy after seeing Mu Axian?" Song Wuyo shrugged and sighed. Maybe it's because Mushin doesn't like him that he's like this. So, no matter how high or low one's IQ is, as long as one's body reaches adulthood, they will start to be dishonest. What kind of twisted logic is that? Song Wuyo couldn't help but roll her eyes at Gu Yanhao. Gu Yanhao didn't answer her. Instead, he walked in front of her, held her two little hands, and looked at her affectionately. Mushin and Qing Junghua got pregnant before they got married. We've been married for so long, why aren't you pregnant yet? Song Wuyo's heart skipped a beat when she heard that. Could it be because of the miscarriage last time? Gu Yanhao raised his eyebrows and frowned deeply when he heard that. Song Wuyo looked into his eyes. Ah ho, if I really get sick and can't have children, will you still want me? Chapter 447. Gu Yanhao flicked her forehead. Am I such a shallow person? Song Wuyo twitched her lips, but you like children. Gu Yanhao looked at her lovingly. I like the children you give birth to. Song Wuyo frowned, but it's been so long, and I am still not pregnant. Let's eat first. Gu Yanhao pulled her into the dining room. After dinner, Gu Yanhao brought Song Wuyo to the hospital. They did not go to the hospital where Mu Axian was hospitalized. Instead, they went to a hospital with a good reputation. The car stopped at the entrance of the hospital, and Song Wuyo looked out of the window. She asked, "Aho, why did you bring me here?" Check. Song Wuyo immediately understood what Feng Yu was trying to do. He had come here swiftly to check on her body to see if there was anything wrong with her body and if she could give birth. Song Wuyo was nervous. She was afraid that she could not conceive. Actually, she also likes children. After parking the car, Gu Yanhao got out of the car and walked in with Song Wuyo, who was in a daze. Ah ho, I am very nervous. Song Wuyo stopped. Gu Yanhao smiled. It's not painful. It's just a routine check. Relax. I am not talking about this. I am afraid that this is really something wrong with me. Don't overthink. What if it is something wrong with me? Song Wuyo looked at Feng Yu with a puzzled look. Gu Yanhao laughed softly. I will also check. Let's do it together. Song Wuyo frowned. She was suspicious. Feng Yu was so strong and could still have sex for 2 hours even when he was injured. What problem could he have? Before she could think further, Gu Yanhao had already pulled her into the hospital. After registering for 2 check-ins, the nurses led them to the andrology department. 1 hour later, the two of them sat on the lounge chairs in the corridor. Their heads were together as they carefully read the various inspection reports. There was no problem at all. The doctor said that my environment is very good. There is no inflammation, so I can get pregnant, Song Wuyo said. The environment was very good. Hearing these words, Gu Yanhao couldn't help but imagine her naked body in that place. Yes, her environment was indeed very good, because that place belonged only to him, and only he could enter. I'm fine too, Gu Yanhao said with a charming smile. The doctor said that if I work hard, I'll be able to hold the baby soon. Song Wuyo couldn't understand Gu Yanhao's report and asked doubtfully, how does the doctor know that there's nothing wrong with you? Do it for him to see. What are you thinking? Gu Yanhao patted the back of her head. Would I have sex with an old man? Then what is this? Song Wuyo handed the report to Gu Yanhao. On it was written something about the depth of the IVF and the activity of the IVF. Stupid woman. Gu Yanhao snatched the report and said with a dark face, I shot it at an action movie. Ah. Song Wuyo was stunned. I'm not talking to you. Gu Yanhao rolled up the report and pulled Song Wuyo up with one hand. Let's go back. Hey, ah-ho, we're all fine. Aren't you very happy? Why is your face not dark all of a sudden? Song Wuyo teased him. I'm unhappy and depressed. After getting into the car, Song Wuyo looked at him with a smile. Why are you unhappy and depressed? Gu Yanhao leaned forward, and suddenly, a burst of male hormone spread. Song Wuyo's heart was pounding. Gu Yanhao reached out his hand to her chest. Song Wuyo's face suddenly turned red. Gu Yanhao glanced at her coldly and reached out his hand. He didn't do anything to her, but pulled the seatbelt and helped her fasten it. Honey, you have to get into the habit of fastening your seatbelt when you get in the car. Chapter 448. Oh. Song Wuyo pursed her lips, looking a little awkward. Gu Yanhao retracted his hand and pretended not to know anything. Raising his eyebrows, he asked, why is your face so red? Am I? Song Wuyo blinked. I was too nervous during the checkup just now. Is that so? Gu Yanhao narrowed his eyes. His smile was getting wider with a hint of charm, causing Song Wuyo to feel guilty. Even when he was smiling, his gaze seemed to be able to see through her. Song Wuyo lowered her head. Yes. It was a little painful during the checkup. The doctor suggested that we be more diligent. Gu Yanhao's slender fingers pinched Song Wuyo's chin gently. Lifting her face, he looked at her seductively. Song Wuyo's eyes were bright as she looked at him quietly. Her cheeks were rosy. You're already very diligent. No, Gu Yanhao said seriously, I'm not diligent enough. Even the doctor said that I'm not diligent enough. If he were to be any more diligent, she would not be able to take it. Wifey, not only do we have to be in different positions, we have to be in different environments as well, Gu Yanhao said in a low voice. Song Wuyo seemed to know that something was wrong. She looked at him warily. What are you trying to do? Perhaps our children would like cars more. Gu Yanhao, get off. Song Wuyo slapped his hand away. This is the entrance of the hospital. People are coming and going. The men and women in action movies are very ugly. What? Song Wuyo was dumbfounded. She thought for a few seconds before she understood. Her eyes widened. You were watching the film just now? Yes. He wanted to press her down immediately, but she was not by his side. Song Woo-yo smiled and asked, Is it good? No. Gu Yenhao looked at her with disdain. Didn't you have a reaction in the end? Gu Yenhao fastened his seatbelt. I reacted because I was thinking about you. You care about me. Yes, Gu Yenhao admitted frankly. Woo-yo, let me take you somewhere. Where? Song Woo-yo asked curiously. I thought you didn't like to do it in front of the hospital. She didn't like being in the car. Gu Yenhao couldn't wait any longer. He started the car and got on the road. When they returned to the manor, it was already the next morning. Today, Ban Jianing was very happy because Migu brought Muxin to the manor and let her recuperate in the manor. Mu Axayan had a miscarriage and could be discharged after staying in the hospital for observation for a day. I heard that you guys didn't come back last night. Where did you guys go? Migu, who was sitting lazily on the sofa with his long legs crossed and reading a magazine, looked up at them. Watch the sunset and sunrise, Gu Yenhao said. Tisk. Migu was disdainful. What was there to see about the sunset and sunrise? Tsk what? You won't be able to understand the romance in it. Gu Yenhao lay on the sofa, exuding a lazy and noble temperament. Song Woo-yo was dragged upstairs by Ban Jianing to see Muxin. In the living room, there was only Ade. Gu Yenhao looked at Migu. Don't you love Muxin very much? Why did you hurt her like this? When Migu heard that, he frowned slightly. How did I hurt Muxin? Her miscarriage has nothing to do with me. You know what I'm talking about, Gu Yenhao said. Migu restrained the smile on his face. I'm Muxin's biological brother. I only do things that are good for Muxin. I will never do anything to hurt her. Are you planning to stay here? Gu Yenhao asked. Am I not welcome? Migu asked instead of answering. Chapter 449. Gu Yenhao said bluntly, You're not welcome at all. You should go back. Migu complained, Ah-ho, you can't bully me like that. I've never kicked you out when you came to my ranch. Gu Yenhao said confidently, You're the one who didn't kick me out. What does that have to do with me? Migu said, I know you're a tough guy, but I still want to be friends with you. I'm asking for it. Gu Yenhao didn't care. You can cut ties with me. Migu got up and said half-jokingly, Okay, I'll cut ties with you now. Ah-ho, Muxin will stay here for a few days. I'm busy. You and Woo-yo take care of her for me. Okay. Gu Yenhao didn't keep Migu. Migu left the manor and drove straight back to the ranch. It was already 3 in the afternoon when he returned to the ranch. As soon as the car stopped, his phone rang with an alarm. Migu's eyes darkened and he hurriedly picked up his phone. On the screen, a tall and enchanting figure was walking around. In the background was the entrance to the ranch. Looking at the person on the screen, Migu raised an eyebrow. It was her. Migu got out of the car, leaned against the hood, and smoked unhurriedly. Young master, a stranger has broken in. The butler of the ranch rushed over and asked Migu for advice. Should we stop them? Migu exhaled a mouthful of smoke and narrowed his eyes. No need. The butler, Migu looked at the butler. Go do your thing. The butler nodded. Okay. After the butler left, Migu smoked intermittently. Smoking was a very normal action, but when he did it, it was like he was emitting a magical power that could mesmerize people. His expression was calm and unfathomable. The smell of perfume drifted in the air. Then, a gust of wind came from behind. Magoo calmly put out the cigarette. Before the force came, he turned around and exchanged blows with the attacker. The woman was good at fighting, and so was Magoo. After the two exchanged a few blows, the woman leaped onto the roof of the car and stood there. The wind blew, causing her long dress to flutter in all directions. It was incomparably dazzling. Magoo stood there, raising his head and looking at the woman coldly. I admire your skills. Although the Moo family has long declined, you relied on your own efforts to become rich. I admire your ability, the woman said. Her long hair danced in the wind. It was very ostentatious and enchanting. Ching Wan Duo, you have to pay the price for trespassing on my territory, Magoo said. Ching Wan Duo lifted her skirt and smiled enchantingly. What price? How about giving yourself to me? One does not visit a temple without a cause. I want to know, why are you here? Magoo asked. There was a hint of coldness brewing in his eyes. When he thought of how she repeatedly provoked Song Wuyo, he wanted to kill this woman. However, he could not kill her now. If he killed her now, Qing Jianxin would not let him go. Not only would killing her not protect Song Wuyo, but it would also bring more trouble to Song Wuyo. I admire you. Ching Wan Duo brushed her hair in front of her chest and smiled seductively. I am especially interested in you. Hee hee. Magoo laughed sarcastically. I am not interested in you at all. Ching Wan Duo narrowed her eyes. You don't think I am pretty? Magoo turned around and entered the house. His voice was as cold as ice. I only see an ugly woman breaking into my territory. Ching Wan Duo, I will give you 3 minutes to leave my ranch immediately. Chapter 450. Ching Wan Duo jumped down from the roof of the car and followed after him. Magoo suddenly stopped, turned around and looked at Ching Wan Duo coldly. Leave this place. He was emitting a terrifying coldness from head to toe, making people shudder. Ching Wan Duo snorted coldly, not taking the coldness from Magoo's body to heart. She arrogantly raised her chin and looked at Magoo provocatively. What if I don't leave? Magoo's expression was cold, his peach blossom eyes became colder than a 1,000-year-cold furnace, and there was an obvious killing intent. He stared at Ching Wan Duo. You think that because you are Qing Jianxin's adopted daughter, I don't dare to kill you? Ching Wan Duo laughed even more arrogantly, and the provocation was even more obvious. Then do you dare to kill me? Magoo looked at Ching Wan Duo coldly and said word by word, when the time comes, I will definitely not let you off. Ching Wan Duo heard this and raised her eyebrows. So, you wanted to kill me long ago. Magoo ignored her and turned to enter the house. Marry me, I will give you what you want. Ching Wan Duo looked at Magoo's back and said with certainty. Magoo's lips curled up mockingly. She couldn't give him what he wanted. For example, Qing Jianxin's life. When Magoo heard this, his footsteps suddenly stopped. He turned around, narrowed his eyes, and looked at Ching Wan Duo with a sharp gaze. What did you say? Ching Wan Duo smiled flirtatiously. I said, marry me, I can give you what you want, for example, his life. Song Wuyo lay on Gu Yanhao's body, panting. Her face was red like a peach, making Gu Yanhao want to take a bite. After the entanglement, the woman's skin was even more tender and tender. When she breathed, her soft breath gently blew on Gu Yanhao's neck. Just like how her soft, boneless hands gently caressed his entire body. It made him numb, his waist tight, and his lower abdomen hot. Looking at her red face, Gu Yanhao's eyes were filled with endless tenderness. He gently stroked the strands of seaweed-like hair that were scattered on his chest with his large palm. His sexy thin lips curled up beautifully with a devilish smile. Very tired. Yes. She asked knowingly. I liked the position just now. Gu Yanhao's hoarse, deep, and bewitching. Yet, it was incomparably pleasing to the ear, and every word touched Song Wuyo's to her heart to toe. It's a good opportunity for you to train your body. Moving like this is tiring. If I'm not by your side and you encounter danger, what will you do? Ah ho, this is different from that. Song Wuyo could not explain clearly. This man, how could he mix two different things together and talk about it? How are they different? My mind is clear when I'm fighting, but I'm not clear when I'm doing this. Song Wuyo said with a red face. When Gu Yanhao heard that, his smile became even more devilish. So that's how it is. His hand moved to her buttocks. Song Wuyo raised her head and looked at him. Why are you pinching me? Gu Yanhao smiled evilly, and his eyes were full of lust. I want to make you not clear-headed. I'm so tired. Song Wuyo protested. Her protest seemed to be ineffective. Let's change positions this time. You're at the bottom and I'm on top. You're a wolf. I can't feed you enough. Song Wuyo really wanted to cry but had no tears. Gu Yanhao pressed Song Wuyo under his body. His whole body was full of masculinity and was extremely strong. Don't you like this, wolf? Chapter 451. You still don't like this, wolf? Gu Yanhao smirked. Song Wuyo blushed and did not dare to look at Gu Yanhao's burning eyes. Gu Yanhao interlocked his fingers with hers, and his cold lips kissed her soft lips affectionately. Gently pecking, gently nibbling, gently sucking. Every kiss was a confession of the love in his heart to the woman he loved. Song Wuyo's mind, which had just cleared up, started to become muddy and pale under his affectionate kisses. Her sore limbs became soft because of the numbness. She was kissed until she could not help but moan. In Gu Yanhao's ears, it was like a seduction. After the foreplay, he held her hand again and walked towards the clouds. Sweating profusely, the two of them took a warm bath together and went downstairs to eat. Gu Yanhao walked in front and Song Wuyo followed behind. The former's face was full of joy, and he was in a good mood. The latter's legs were sore, so she held on to the handrail and went downstairs slowly. She stared at Gu Yanhao's tall back view. Marrying a man born in the year of the wolf, she would have to suffer in the future. I have said many times, don't follow me, don't follow me. Mu Xian's sharp voice came from the dining room, and she walked out of the dining room in a hurry. Behind her, Ban Jianing followed closely with a depressed face. Mu Xian wanted to go upstairs, but when she saw Gu Yanhao and Song Wuyo, she was stunned for a moment. She then turned around and sat on the sofa angrily. Seeing them throwing a tantrum, Gu Yanhao only raised his eyebrows and did not say a word. He went downstairs and went straight into the dining room. Jianing, what's wrong? Song Wuyo looked at the depressed and unhappy Ban Jianing and asked. Ban Jianing faintly looked at Muxin as if he was about to cry. He curled his lips and said, I want to play with Muxin, but Muxin won't play with me. Hearing this, Mu Xian suddenly glared at him and scolded without holding back, I don't want to play with a fool like you. Being called a fool, Ban Jianing pouted unhappily and looked at Muxin with a wronged expression. I'm not a fool. Seeing Ban Jianing's expression that looked like he was about to cry, Song Wuyo couldn't bear it. However, she also understood that Muxin was angry. Song Wuyo walked over and gently patted Ban Jianing's shoulder as she said softly, Jianing, I heard that you shouldn't disturb Muxin now. Muxin is not feeling well and is in a bad mood. You can play with her when she is in a better mood, okay? Ban Jianing's mouth twitched even more. His handsome face collapsed as he looked at Mushin. Let's go in and eat, okay? Song Woo asked with a smile. Ban Jianing glanced at her. I've already eaten. Then you sit here for a while. Big sister will come and play with you after eating, okay? Okay. Don't disturb Mushin. Let her have some peace, okay? Okay. Song Woo smiled with relief. Jianing is getting more and more sensible. After Song Woo entered the dining room, Ban Jianing walked over to the sofa opposite Mushin and sat down. Mushin watched as Song Woo's figure entered the dining room with a dejected expression. She respected and worshipped Song Woo very much. However, she was really annoyed with Ban Jianing. She wondered if her bad attitude toward Ban Jianing would make her unhappy. Mushin swept a cold glance at Ban Jianing. How good would it be if he wasn't a fool? If he wasn't a fool, he wouldn't have pestered her to help him bathe and she wouldn't have broken up with Qing Junhua. Chapter 452. Thinking about how Qing Junhua and Miss Chen had been together for a long time and how Qing Junhua didn't even look at her when she had a miscarriage, Mu Axian's heart ached so much that she couldn't breathe. Mu Axian. Ban Jianing faintly looked at Mu Axian with an expression of fear that she would be angry. Don't call me that. Ban Jianing, I hate you. Mu Axian said in a bad mood. But I like you very much. Ban Jianing blinked his eyes. He looked handsome and cute. But this cute look on an adult's face, no matter how handsome his facial features were, he would still be upset and his heart would tremble. A fool was a fool. Even if he was handsome and had the noble air of a prince, no one would like him. At the very least, Mu Axian wouldn't like this fool. Ban Jianing's words were heard by Song Woo, who had just entered the dining room. Song Woo slightly frowned. She sat down absent-mindedly and looked at the dishes that Sister Song brought over. What's wrong? Gu Yanhao saw that she was absent-minded and asked softly. Song Woo secretly sighed in her heart and said, Can Jianing's intelligence be proportional to his age? People will slowly grow up. Intelligence is the same. You mean, as time passes, Jianing's intelligence will slowly grow. His intelligence is currently 5 years old. If he wants to be the same as an adult, wouldn't it take him 13 years? I can't say for sure. He doesn't want to see a psychiatrist, so we won't force him to be normal. As long as he's healthy and happy, it's fine. Gu Yanhao said warmly. Song Woo pursed her lips. Although that's what he said, Ban Jianing likes Mu Axian. If Mu Axian doesn't like him, can he live happily? They had a relationship in their previous life. She didn't know if they would continue their relationship in this life. Song Woo drank a mouthful of soup and suddenly smiled at Gu Yanhao. You're very good to Jianing. What can I do? Who told me to be so protective? Love the house and its crow. I'm also protective. Song Woo smiled. Didn't you love me long enough? Gu Yanhao smiled bewitchingly. Ah. Song Woo didn't react for a moment, but Sister Song, who served the dishes, understood what he meant. She glanced at them ambiguously and smiled secretly. Seeing Sister Song Woo smile, Song Woo finally understood that Gu Yanhao was just joking. Gu Yanhao, you're not serious. Song Woo scolded. Eat more. After a few rounds, you've used up a lot of energy. Gu Yanhao smiled and looked at Sister Song. Sister Song, make more nourishing soups for Madam in the future. Sister Song smiled and nodded. Alright, I'll also make a soup for young Master Gu to boost his sexual drive. Gu Yanhao nodded with a serious expression. That's not bad. I'll be even more powerful this way. Finally, Sister Song served the mandarin duck fish dish. She gently placed it down and smiled. Young Master Gu, Mrs. Gu, this is the mandarin duck fish dish. After eating it, your life as a couple will be filled with happiness. After serving the dishes, Sister Song left the restaurant to do other chores. Sister Song's dishes are all very good. You have to eat more. Gu Yanhao picked up a piece of fish and removed the bones before placing it in Song Wuyo's bowl. I'll do it myself. This is saltwater fish. You'll be allergic if you eat it, Song Wuyo said. Even if I'm allergic, I still want to eat it. Gu Yanhao picked up a piece of fish and put it in his mouth. He smiled evilly and looked at Song Wuyo like a fox. Mandarin duck fish. After eating it, your life as a couple will be filled with happiness. Song Wuyo blushed. Even if you don't eat it, it will still be filled with happiness. Chapter 453. Gu Yanhao's smile deepened. Of course. It's just that I'll feel even better after eating it. Honey, eat this. Gu Yanhao picked up some food for her. Even though this is a vegetarian dish, it's very nutritious. Okay. Song Wuyo ate every dish that he picked up for her, and it was delicious. Try this homemade tofu. Gu Yanhao scooped up a spoonful of tofu soup and sent it into Song Wuyo's mouth. A burst of soybean fragrance wafted into her nose. Song Wuyo smiled sweetly, opened her mouth, and ate the tofu. Gu Yanhao's eyes flickered as he looked at her expectantly. How is it? How does it taste? It tasted great. The tofu soup was delicious. It melted in her mouth and lingered on her lips. You didn't make it. Why are you so nervous? Song Wuyo looked at Gu Yanhao in amusement. I've thought about it. When I'm free, I'll learn a few healthy and nutritious dishes from Sister Song. When we're old, I'll cook them for you. Gu Yanhao's pitch-black phoenix eyes were filled with tenderness. Why do you have to wait until we're old to cook for me? When we're old, our teeth will fall out. We won't be able to eat much even if we want to. Right now, I have something more important to do. When I'm done with this important thing, I'll accompany you every day. Gu Yanhao smiled. I'll stick to you all the time. What important thing? Song Wuyo asked. Gu Yanhao smiled faintly. I'm not telling you. Song Wuyo looked at him nervously. Don't tell me you're looking for that Qing Wan duo to settle the score. Gu Yanhao frowned. Settling the score with her is not important. Song Wuyo looked at him deeply. If you don't tell me, I won't ask. But you have to promise me that no matter what you do, you have to protect yourself well. Got it. Gu Yanhao's eyes were smiling. Those gentle eyes could melt one's heart. Enough. Muxin's angry voice suddenly sounded in the living room. Song Wuyo and Gu Yanhao looked at each other. Song Wuyo was surprised. Did they quarrel? Muxin has always had a bad temper. Now that she's heartbroken, she's annoyed Jianing, Gu Yanhao said. I'll go take a look. Song Wuyo was just about to get up when Gu Yanhao looked at her. Sit down. I'm worried about Jianing, let's eat. Song Wuyo frowned. At this time, she was not in the mood to eat. If it wasn't for you, Jun Guo wouldn't have broken up with me. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be in so much pain right now. Ban Jianing, are you my nemesis? Why? Why are you pestering me like a ghost? I hate it very much. You're obviously an adult, but you act like a child. I feel disgusted just by looking at a fool like you. I hate you. If you weren't Sister Wuyo's younger brother, I would have stabbed you long ago. Mushin screamed heartbreakingly at Ban Jianing, who was pestering her to play games. She was in pain, in great pain. She was heartbroken and had a miscarriage. She blamed all of this on Ban Jianing. Finally, she couldn't take it anymore and vented her anger. Ban Jianing stood in front of Mushin like a child who had done something wrong. His head was lowered, and his two arms were hanging listlessly by his side. He had his head lowered. When Mushin screamed at him, Song Wuyo and Gu Yanhao, who had walked out, didn't see his expression. But they felt that he was very lonely and weak like this. And in the eyes that they couldn't see, they were incomparably dim and sorrowful. His eyes were red, as if he would cry at any time, as if she was tired of scolding. Mushin stopped. Chapter 454. About a minute later, she looked up and glanced at Ban Jianing coldly. "The more you pester me like this, the more I hate you." Ban Jianing pursed his lips and carefully glanced at Mushin. He looked very sad. She said that the more he pestered her, the more she hated him. He pursed his lips and looked like he was about to cry. "Then I won't pester you anymore." With that, he turned around sadly. When he saw Song Wuyo and Gu Yanhao, he blinked and his eyes turned red. Without saying anything, he went upstairs. Song Wuyo looked at Ban Jianing with some heartache. What a pitiful child. She looked at Ban Jianing and said to Gu Yanhao, "Mushin's words sound familiar." When Gu Yanhao heard that, a hint of awkwardness flashed past his long and narrow eyes. Song Wuyo retracted her gaze and looked at Gu Yanhao. "You did the same to me back then. Honey, we can't always look at each other. I'll treat you as well as I treated you in the past. I'll make it up to you, okay?" Song Wuyo smiled happily. "Of course, I'm not a pretentious woman." But, Song Wuyo looked at Mushin. "I wonder if Mushin will like Jianing in the future. Don't forget, Jianing is just a 5-year-old child." Gu Yanhao kindly reminded her. Gu Yanhao touched her head. "I'll go back to the study. You stay here with Mushin. 2 hours later, I'll go downstairs to look for you." Song Wuyo nodded. "Okay, you can go to work." After Gu Yanhao went upstairs, Song Wuyo sat down beside Mushin. Mu Axayan sat there with her head lowered, crying silently. Her tears dripped onto her legs. Song Wuyo took 2 pieces of tissue and handed them to her. She said softly, "Why are you angry with a little boy?" Mushin didn't look up. She took the tissue and wiped her tears. She choked and said, "I don't know why, but I get angry when I see him. Because of that video." Mushin shook her head. "When I first saw him, I hated him." Song Wuyo smiled helplessly. "But he likes you a lot." Mushin slowly raised her head. Her eyes were red, and her eyelashes were wet. She looked at Song Wuyo sadly. "Sister Wuyu, I don't like being with him." Mu Axian choked with sobs. Song Wuyo hugged her shoulder and gently patted her. "If you don't like it, then don't be together. I'm in a terrible mood right now. Can you accompany me to go shopping?" Mushin sniffled, her voice slightly hoarse from crying. "Can your body take it?" Song Wuyo was a little worried about her body. "I like to shop when I'm in a bad mood." "I'll be in a good mood after spending the money," Mu Axian said. "What kind of bad habit is this? She must have been spoiled by Migu. Are you willing to accompany me?" Song Wuyo nodded. Song Wuyo originally wanted to tell Gu Yanhao. But when she thought about how serious and crazy he was when he was working, she couldn't bear to disturb him. She and Mushin went to Gu Chun's chain store. Gu Chun's chain store was the Gu clan's largest clothing store in the country. Ever since Song Wuyo's designs went on the market, they broke the sales record of previous years. Just 4 sets of retro women's clothing were enough to break the record. Song Wuyo's reputation quickly spread in the clothing industry. When the store owners saw her, they all revealed looks of worship. The lady boss was so beautiful in person. She was so beautiful and had a good temperament. Chapter 455. Under Song Wuyo's suggestion, Mu Axian bought several sets of fashionable women's clothing produced by the Gu clan. After leaving Gu Chun's chain store and going to a branded store to buy a few pairs of Hermes' latest sandals, Mu Axian's mood was not so heavy. The 2 women came from the 50th floor of Gu Chun's building with bags of various sizes. Mu Axian saw that Song Wuyo was carrying her own things and repeated the question countless times. Sister Wuyo, are you really not going to buy shoes or clothes for yourself? Song Wuyo smiled at Mu Axian. Gu Yanhao has filled the cloakroom. Mu Axian pursed her lips. Having a good husband is bliss. Before breaking up with Qing Junhua, she also thought that she was a blissful woman. She did not expect that Qing Junhua, who seemed to like her a lot, would actually be two-timing. Their car was parked in the basement parking lot of Gu Chun's building. The elevator stopped at the basement level. Song Wuyo and Mu Axian walked out of the elevator. The basement parking lot was empty and silent except for the cars. Most of the people who worked in Gu Chun's building would park their cars here. At this moment, they were at work. It seemed that only Song Wuyo and Mu Axian were in the empty parking lot. Mu Axian was a little tired from walking, and her body was a little weak from the miscarriage. She carried her things and quickened her pace towards their car. Song Wuyo, who was following behind her, suddenly slowed down. She frowned slightly and looked cautious. She seemed to have smelled danger. Her gaze swept around sharply. The entire parking lot was quiet. Only the sound of Mu Axian opening the car door and her own footsteps could be heard. Mu Axian was in charge of driving. She got into the driver's seat and waited for Song Wuyo. Song Wuyo. Suddenly, a woman's provocative voice sounded behind Song Wuyo. Song Wuyo quickly turned around. On the roof of a BMW stood a woman with big wavy hair. The woman was dressed in black and leather. Her tall and voluptuous figure was tightly wrapped, but she was graceful and enchanting with clear lines. She carried a small submachine gun with both hands. Her oval face had a bright and beautiful smile, but in reality, it was extremely dangerous. When Song Wuyo saw her, her eyes narrowed and became incomparably cold. Qing Wanduo. The last time I fought with you, I didn't have enough fun. How about we fight again? Qing Wanduo was standing on the roof of the car, so he looked down at Song Wuyo. Song Wuyo sneered, her eyes full of disdain. You may be free, but I'm not. It's rare to meet a strong opponent, so I'm especially interested in you. As he spoke, Qing Wanduo raised his gun slightly and aimed it at Song Wuyo. Looking at the black muzzle of the gun, Song Wuyo couldn't help but think of what happened on the highway. Her eyes darkened and became incomparably cold. She raised her chin and looked at Qing Wanduo fearlessly. Her cold voice was filled with disdain. I'm not interested in you at all. I'm looking for you today because I want to see if you're faster than my bullets. Qing Wanduo curled his lips and smiled coldly. Bang! As soon as he finished speaking, the bullet was fired. Song Wuyo's eyes turned cold. She hurriedly dodged and avoided the bullet that was fired at her. Bang! The bullet hit a car behind her. The car suddenly caved in and the entire car shook violently. Mu Axian leaned against the chair and closed her eyes to rest while waiting for Song Wuyo. Unexpectedly, she fell asleep in an instant. Suddenly, there was a loud noise that woke her up. She looked in front of the car and saw Song Woo nimbly dodging to one side. Then, a car behind her was shot. Muaxian's face changed drastically. She looked at Song Woo outside the car in horror. Song Woo steadied herself and looked back at the car that was shot. Then, her sharp eyes glared at Ching Wanduo. Are you crazy? If the car here explodes, how many innocent people will be affected? Have you thought about it? Ha ha ha. Ching Wanduo looked up and laughed. You can't even protect yourself, and, ping dash, as she spoke, Song Woo had already taken out a pocket-sized pistol and fired a shot at Ching Wanduo's arm. Ching Wanduo didn't even have time to dodge. When she reacted, the pain from her arm made her frown. Chapter 456. She held the gun with one hand and looked at Song Woo coldly. You dare to hit me? Song Woo snorted. You're allowed to hit me. She was no longer that soft persimmon. Ching Wanduo stared at Song Woo dangerously. Do you know the consequences of angering me? Song Woo disdainfully. At worst, I'll die. Ching Wanduo lowered her injured hand and blood dripped onto the car. She looked at Song Woo coldly. Was she really not afraid of death? Did she think that she was great with Gu Yanhao? You're not afraid of death. Ching Wanduo said coldly. If Ching Junhua or someone else asked you to kill me, go back and tell him to come find me personally. If not, please don't challenge me when you have nothing to do. I'll really kill you. Song Woo looked at Ching Wanduo and said coldly. Her cold beautiful eyes revealed a light that didn't care about anything in the world. Hee hee. Ching Wanduo laughed disdainfully and then clapped her hands. Song Woo suddenly felt a sense of danger coming from behind her. She turned around abruptly. Bang! As soon as she turned around, she saw a bullet flying towards her at lightning speed. She narrowed her eyes and jumped away, but her speed was still a bit slow. The bullet brushed past her arm. Bang! The sound of the bullet scraping through flesh rang in her ears. She tilted her head and looked at the wound. Her arm seemed to have been cut by a knife and the wound immediately started bleeding. The gun also fell to the ground because of the pain. She didn't have time to look and think, nor did she have time to pick up the gun. A murderous aura attacked her. Sister Weo. Mushin, who was in the car, was suddenly frightened. Seeing the two women attacking Song Weo together, she cried out in shock and her face turned pale. Because Song Weo's arm was injured, he did not gain the upper hand in the fight with the two women who were very skilled. In addition, this body didn't fight often. Sometimes, she wasn't as flexible as she thought. Puff! Song Woo was suddenly kicked in her abdomen. She bent over in pain and hugged her abdomen with one hand and grabbed Ching Wanduo's leg with the other hand. She then flung him away. Ching Wanduo was flung out and landed on the ground. He staggered for a few steps before he stood firm. Song Woo. Just after she flung Ching Wanduo away, another woman attacked her. This woman seemed to be more powerful than Ching Wanduo. When Song Woo was suffering Song's abdomen, Song was hit by the woman's chest. She was hit and to hit her chest. She was hit by the woman's chest. Song Woo was hit by the impact hits as. Song to Song 2's. Song was to hit hits as hit. Of she to s to. Pfff. He spat out a mouthful of blood and sprinkled it on the clean silver car. It was like an irregular red flower that was extremely dazzling. Song Woo propped himself up with one hand and covered his aching heart with the other. He looked up and stared coldly at the woman standing in front of him like a demoness. It's her. The woman who pretended to be a nurse and wanted to kill Ban Jianing. Song Wuyo frowned and looked at the woman. The woman's figure was as tall as Qing Wanduo, but her skills were several times better than Qing Wanduo's. Song Wuyo felt that it would be difficult to determine the winner with just a bare-handed opponent like this. You're just a so-so. The woman's sexy lips curled up and revealed a disdainful sneer. No, Xin, she flies quite fast. Qing Wanduo walked over and stood beside the woman. He smiled ambiguously. The woman called Li Xin smiled even more disdainfully. No matter how fast she flies, she can't be faster than my bullet. Unless she's a rocket. Li Xin looked at Song Wuyo's bleeding arm and smiled happily. Chapter 457. Song Wuyo, it's easy for us to kill you now. Qing Wanduo took 2 steps forward and said proudly. Song Wuyo looked at them fearlessly. There was only coldness in her eyes and no fear. I can't beat you alone, but I can attack you together. Qing Wanduo pointed at Li Xin behind her. Do you know who she is? She's the princess of Country L. If you die in her hands, even your husband, Gu Yanhao, can't do anything to her. Song Wuyo lowered his eyes and looked at the wound. The skin was torn open and the flesh was exposed. It was extremely ugly. Her calmness and fearlessness made Qing Wanduo raise his eyebrows. Li Xin's gaze turned cold. Wanduo, don't talk nonsense with her. Let's kill her. I don't like her. Li Xin said coldly. You received a notice to kill her. Qing Wanduo laughed. Li Xin said, I don't like her. I don't need a notice to kill her. Qing Wanduo said, who would like a love rival? When Song Wuyo heard this, she raised her eyes and looked at Li Xin coldly. Love rival? This woman liked her husband. As if seeing through Song Wuyo's thoughts, Qing Wanduo looked at Song Wuyo arrogantly. Gu Yanhao is the type that Xin likes. If you give up your position, we'll let you have some peace. Ha! When Song Wuyo heard this, she also showed an arrogant expression and sneered. Her gaze fell on Li Xin and she said unhurriedly, it depends on whether she's my husband's type. Otherwise, even if I give up my position, she won't be my husband's favorite dish. Li Xin was proud of her talent and raised her chin. I'm the princess of Country L. Whether it's appearance or background, I'm better than you. In fact, your skills are not as good as mine. Beep. Beep. At this moment, police cars appeared at the 2 entrances of the parking lot. Qing Wanduo and Li Xin's expressions changed slightly. After exchanging a glance, they hurriedly retreated. Song Wuyo wanted to chase after them, but she couldn't. After they disappeared in the direction of the elevator, Song Wuyo's body swayed. His body leaned tightly against the front of the car. His uninjured hand was firmly propped on the car. Sister Wuyo. As soon as Qing Wanduo and the others left, Mu Axan opened the car door and hurriedly rushed out. She ran over to support Song Wuyo, who was trembling because of the pain. Seeing Song Wuyo spurt out blood, her arm bleeding, and her complexion ugly, Mu Axan was so anxious that her eyes started to burn. They've gone too far. They beat you up like this. Let me sit down. Song Wuyo slowly sat down. At this moment, the police cars drove in one after another. Sister Wuyo, I'm very scared, so I called the police. Mu Axan cried. Are you guys trying to make a big deal out of this? Qing Junguo looked sharply at Qing Wanduo and Li Xin, who were sitting opposite him. Li Xin was playing with a dagger and said casually, I gave up my identity as a princess to be a killer. When I see a woman that I don't like, I kill whenever I want. I can kill other women, but not Song Wuyo. Ching Junhua warned. Song Wuyo deserved to die, but not now. At least, he had to wait until he became the president. If Song Wuyo died now, it would definitely cause a sensation in M City. At that time, Gu Yanhao would definitely reveal that Song Wuyo was Ban Dekhang and Guojie's daughter in order to stop him from becoming the president. More importantly, Gu Yanhao might know the cause of Ban Dechang's death. If Song Wuyo was killed by his men, Gu Yanhao would take revenge on the entire Qing family for her. Chapter 458. If that man told the truth about what had happened back then and caused public outrage, both he and the current president would be implicated. Although Ching Junhua really wanted Song Wuyo to die, now wasn't the time. For the sake of the president's position, he planned to give up on killing Ban Jianing for the time being. Previously, he had suspected that Ban Jianing was pretending to be crazy to get rid of this bomb. But he had been by Song Wuyo's side for so long, and he hadn't been normal. He thought that Ban Jianing was really stupid. A fool couldn't be a threat to him. Now, the one who was giving him a headache was Song Wuyo. That damned woman. Not only was she the woman that Gu Yanhao doted on, but she was also his stepmother's daughter. What shocked him even more was that this woman actually knew martial arts. It wasn't easy to kill her. Moreover, he couldn't kill her now. Li Xinxin looked up and stared coldly at Ching Junhua. If you don't kill her, do you like her? When Ching Wanduo heard this, his eyes lit up and he looked at Ching Junhua silently. Ching Junhua said, you don't have to care about any reason. Anyway, you can't kill her. You're not from K country and have no right to kill people from my country. Li Xinxin looked at Ching Junhua with a half-smile. You can't kill her in your country, but you can in our country or other countries, right? Ching Junhua pursed his thin lips and didn't say anything. His silence couldn't be more obvious. What did Song Wuyo being killed in another country have to do with him, Ching Junhua? Li Xinxin saw that he was silent and his lips curled up into a cold smile. You hurt her. Gu Yanhao won't let it go. Ching Junhua was silent for a minute and said lightly. I don't like her, so I hurt her. Li Xinxin was smart enough to understand that Ching Junhua's meaning wasn't in the wine. Mrs. G. Eyre stood in front of the Roman pillar outside the villa, looking worried. Wuyo was hurt. She had returned a few minutes ago and stopped when she heard the words Wuyo in Ching Junhua and Li Xinxin's conversation. They wanted to kill Worryless and had even injured her. Mrs. G. Eyre was very worried about Song Wuyo's situation. She turned around and walked out of the villa. Wuyo Manor. Song Wuyo leaned against the headboard. The stitches on the wound on his arm were gone. It looked like a centipede was lying on his arm. It was so ugly. A faint pain came from his lower abdomen and chest. She went to the hospital for a checkup. There were no serious internal injuries. She came back after the suture was done. On the way to the hospital, she called Gu Yanhao. Hearing that she was injured, Gu Yanhao, who was discussing cooperation with an important client, immediately ended the video call and rushed to the hospital with a nervous heart. When he saw the wound on her arm, his chest burned with anger. This anger almost blew up the hospital. Under his murderous gaze, the doctor cautiously stitched up Song Wuyo's wound. His anger caused the atmosphere in the entire hospital to become tense. Song Wuyo saw that his facial muscles were tense as if he was suppressing something, so she pretended not to be in pain and tried to find a topic to talk to him. But no matter what she said, he only looked at her quietly with a pair of eyes that were as sharp as an eagle's. He didn't say a word. After returning from the hospital, she couldn't pretend to be strong anymore. She went back to bed and slept. The moment she opened her eyes, she saw a tall white figure standing in front of the window. White shirt and black trousers accentuated Gu Yanhao's slender and straight figure. He stood in front of the window with his hands behind his back, exuding a cold aura. Song Wuyo pursed her lips and looked at his back quietly. Tall, fit, straight. Chapter 459. Tall, fit, straight, he gave off a sense of security. Gu Yanhao suddenly turned around and looked at her sharply with his deep eyes. Seeing him like this, Song Wuyo shrunk her neck, pursed her lips, and looked at him faintly. This man, did he have to be angry for so long? Are you still angry? Song Wuyo asked faintly. How can I not be angry? Gu Yanhao's deep voice had a trace of coldness. People will always encounter some setbacks. You call this a setback? If the police hadn't arrived in time, your life would have been in danger. Gu Yanhao's face was dark. Not necessarily. Song Wuyo pursed her lips. Why didn't you tell me before you left? Gu Yanhao walked over and stood in front of the bed like a god, looking down at Song Wuyo. I didn't want to disturb your work, and I didn't expect those two women to be watching me so closely. Thinking of Qing Wanduo and Li Xinxin, Song Wuyo's eyes turned cold. I won't let them off. Gu Yanhao's deep eyes flashed with a murderous intent. Song Wuyo was shocked. She looked up and pulled Gu Yanhao's hand, looking at him deeply. Ah ho, don't be rash. Gu Yanhao looked at her maliciously. I'm not rash. They provoked me this time, not because Qing Junhua or Qing Jianqin ordered them to do so. They have nothing better to do. Gu Yanhao's eyes were cold. They are crazy. They know that you have kung fu and want to challenge you. Song Wuyo shook her head. No, it's Li Xinxin who likes you. When Gu Yanhao heard that, his eyes narrowed dangerously. Li Xinxin. The princess of L country. I heard that she didn't want to be a princess and came to K country to be an assassin with Qing Wanduo or something. Song Wuyo said simply. She-devil, Gu Yanhao said coldly. Li Xinxin said that I am her rival in love. Song Wuyo looked at Gu Yanhao and said. Gu Yanhao's face darkened. Ah ho, being your wife is quite challenging. Song Wuyo smiled. When Gu Yanhao heard this, he raised his eyebrows and looked at her coldly. What do you mean? Do you regret being my wife? Song Wuyo laughed and said, I've never said that. In the future, no matter who comes to provoke you, teach them a good lesson. If he does anything that threatens your life, then kill him. Don't be polite, Gu Yanhao said coldly. His whole body was emitting a dark, ghostly chill. Li Xinxin and Qing Wanduo are no exception. Song Wuyo asked with interest. Gu Yanhao raised his eyebrows and looked at her coldly. They are not our mothers. If I kill them, K country and L country will not let me off. They are the people of the presidents of the two countries. Gu Yanhao was expressionless. Your husband is here. What are you afraid of? Song Wuyo pulled Gu Yanhao's hand and smiled sweetly. Ah ho, this time they are deliberately finding trouble with me. Let me handle this matter, okay? Gu Yanhao looked at her coldly. How are you going to handle it? Song Wuyo smiled beautifully. Her clear and bright eyes were watery. I won't say for the time being. In short, you have to trust me. I will handle it. Gu Yanhao's face was still ugly. If you are going to handle it, then am I just a decoration? When Song Wuyo heard this, she hurriedly said, No, no. My husband is not a decoration. You handle the big things, and I will handle the small things. Otherwise, if you handle the big and small things, then won't I become a decoration? Gu Yanhao looked at her deeply. She had an unyielding spirit in her bones. Chapter 460. She was not a weak girl. Of course, she would not let herself become a decoration. Wuyo, an attack is not a small matter. I know. Song Wuyo gave him a reassuring smile. Have you forgotten what you've done before? Gu Yanhao looked at her coldly. If you want to say that you've been fighting for 8 years, forget it. Song Wuyo's face fell when she heard that. Ah ho, how can you say that about me? She asked coquettishly. That was thousands of years ago. Moreover, weapons are so advanced now. Even if you're as light as a swallow in this world and can fly in the air, a missile can blow you up. Song Wuyo pursed her lips. Could she fly in the air? She was not a fairy. No matter how fast you are, you're not as fast as a bullet. You can defeat Qing Wanduo alone. If Qing Wanduo and Li Xinxin attack you together, there will be people shooting at you from the side. No matter how good you are, you'll still die. After hearing what he said, Song Wuyo suddenly felt that she was very weak. She blinked. What should I do then? We'll be inseparable in the future. I'll protect you, Gu Yanhao said coldly. You've said so much. You just want to pester me. Song Wuyo pouted. He could pester her if he wanted to, but he made her sound so weak. Actually, she knew how to use a gun. She just did not want to tell him, Woman, do you think I'm in the mood to joke with you at this time? Sometimes, he really could not do anything about this woman. Song Wuyo sat up and wrapped her arms around Gu Yanhao's waist. She hugged him tightly and buried her face in his abdomen. Ah ho, don't be depressed. Seeing you like this makes me feel bad too. Gu Yanhao lowered his head and looked at her with a complicated expression. His eyes were deep and dark. I promise you, I'll be careful in the future. For you, no matter what happens, I will try my best to stay alive, okay? Gu Yanhao raised his hand and hugged her shoulder tightly. He said in a low voice, Well, save your life first. As long as he was still alive, everything would be fine. When he heard that she was injured and sent to the hospital, his nervous heart jumped into his throat. But who knew that he was more afraid? He was afraid that if he wasn't careful, her soul would leave her body and return to the X dynasty. If she brought back the souls of both lives and left him alone in this world, he would rather not have such a life. In his heart, she was as fragile as a porcelain doll. He had to take extra care of her, or she would leave him. Song Wuyo frowned and let go of Gu Yanhao. She turned her head and looked at the centipede-like wound. It's so ugly. But compared to his previous life, this scar was really nothing. But compared to this body, it seemed very abrupt and dazzling. In the future, when he wore short-sleeved clothes, not only himself, but also outsiders would be able to see this scar. When the scab forms, we'll do a facial treatment for the wound, Gu Yanhao comforted her. Song Wuyo looked up and smiled. I'm suddenly hungry. Gu Yanhao touched her face, his eyes full of tenderness. Let's go down and eat. When they went downstairs, Aude, who was waiting in the living room, told them that Mrs. Gill had arrived and was waiting outside the manor. Gu Yanhao looked at Song Wuyo. She should know that you're injured and wants to come and see you. Let her in, shall we? Let her go back. Song Wuyo thought that the Qing family might have killed Ban Dekhang, her biological father, and she felt upset. Chapter 461. She couldn't treat Mrs. Jill as well as she did when she didn't know anything before. Gu Yanhao looked at Aude. Tell her that young madam is fine and doesn't need her concern. Please ask her to go back. Aude nodded. Yes, young master. After Ade went out, Gu Yanhao gently held Song Wuyo's hand and entered the dining room. Mrs. Jill was very sad to be rejected. But there was nothing she could do. Gu Yanhao and Song Wuyo didn't want to see her, so she could only go back. After the car returned to the road near the villa, it met Qing Junhua's car. Their car drove all the way back to the villa and got out together. Qing Junhua's tall and straight body came out of the car. It was as if the air had become extremely oppressive because of his appearance. Mrs. Jill also came out of the car. When she saw Qing Junhua, a hint of guilt flashed across her eyes under her long eyelashes. Qing Junhua looked at her coldly and didn't say anything. He strode into the villa with his slender legs. Seeing that he did not pay any attention to her, Madame Jier was both relieved and disappointed. This child had never accepted her since he was young. His attitude towards her was always so bad. As soon as Mrs. Jill entered the living room, she heard a bang sound. She was shocked and quickly looked over. Qing Junhua exuded a frightening aura. The servant knelt on the ground and picked up the glass shards on the ground in fear. Seeing this scene, Mrs. Jill didn't need to ask to know what had happened. "Get out!" Qing Junhua seemed to be very angry and almost kicked away the maid who was kneeling on the ground to pick up the glass shards. The maid was so frightened that her hand trembled. She was cut by the shards and blood flowed out. But she couldn't care less. She held the shards with both hands and went out feeling wronged. When she passed by Mrs. Jill, she looked at Mrs. Jill with even more grievance. Her eyes were red and she was about to cry. "Junhua, why are you venting your anger on a servant?" Mrs. Jill asked. Actually, she was just a mother who was concerned about her son. However, Qing Junhua suddenly turned around and kicked the coffee table in front of him. The coffee table shook, and the things on it were shaken to the point that they fell to the ground. His action startled Madame Eyre, who opened her eyes and looked at him in surprise. "You still have the nerve to ask. Guijier, how many times have I warned you not to contact Song Wuyo? Did you turn a deaf ear to my words?" Qing Junhua's eyes were bloodshot as he looked at Guijier's wife maliciously. When Madame Ji Eyre heard this, she was very disappointed. "You followed me. I'm warning you one more time. If I find out that you went to Song Wuyo again, don't blame me for not showing mercy." Qing Junhua's eyes were full of coldness. "Junhua, you know that Wuyo is your sister, enough." "Shameless." Qing Junhua looked at Mrs. Eyre coldly. "I was born from my father and mother. Song Wuyo was born from your follower, Chang. She wants to be my sister, but she's not qualified." Qing Junhua's words were like a sharp knife, mercilessly stabbing into Mrs. Eyre's heart. She looked at Qing Junhua with a pale face. "But I'm her mother. I can't not care about her when I know that she's hurt. You married my father because you want to destroy the Qing family, right?" Qing Junhua suddenly took 2 steps forward, exuding a dangerous murderous aura. "You think I don't dare to kill you?" Seeing Qing Junhua, who was like a devil, Mrs. Eyre's heart trembled. She quickly shook her head. "Why would you destroy the Qing family? Your 2 younger brothers are the flesh and blood of the Qing family. Why would I harm them?" Chapter 462. You won't harm them. You're harming me. I see you as my own child. How can I harm you? That's easier said than sung. Qing Junhua's face was full of sarcasm. When Song Wuyo was living a life worse than death in the Song family, I didn't see you wanting to acknowledge her as your daughter. Now that she has Gu Yanhao's favor, you're looking for her 3 or 4 times. You're really pretending. Guijier, I call you mother out of respect for my father's sake. Don't think that you're really my mother. I'll start with the ugly words. If I know that you're looking for Song Woo-yo again, don't blame me for ruining the future of your two sons. I can't guarantee that Song Woo-yo won't die a horrible death. Junhwa, Jungwa Junshan is your younger brother. Mrs. Jier said bitterly. Cheng Junhwa looked at Mrs. Jier with bloodthirst. For my position as president, I don't mind getting rid of the eyesores. You're on your own. With that, Cheng Junhwa strode up the stairs coldly. Mrs. Jier stood there in a daze, looking at his back with gloomy eyes. It wasn't until Mrs. Jier also went upstairs that Song Joo-yu's figure slowly came out of the dining room. Her eyes were cold, and there was an unfathomable smile at the corner of her mouth. The video of Ching Won-duo and Lee Shin-shin fighting Song Woo-yo in the basement of the Gu Chun building was posted on the internet. The video was edited very well. The netizens saw that Song Woo-yo was injured and supporting herself on the car. The front of her skirt and the car were stained with blood. In front of her, there were two women who were forcing her step by step. Do you know who she is? She's the princess of Country L. If you die in her hands, even your husband, Gu Yenhao, can't do anything to her. Won-duo, don't talk nonsense with her. Let's kill her. I don't like her very much. Gu Yenhao is the type that Shin-shin likes. If you give up your position, we'll let you have some peace. I'm the princess of Country L. Whether it's appearance or background, I'm better than you. In fact, your skills are not as good as mine. These few sentences were also very clear, with large subtitles. Even the deaf netizens knew what Lee Shin-shin said in the video. The person who uploaded the video named the video, Princess of L Nation wants to kill Mrs. Gu to snatch her husband, young Master Gu. He even specially explained when the video was played, the kind and beautiful Mrs. Gu was suddenly beaten up by two women. It was reported that one of the women, who claimed to be the Princess of Country L, had taken a fancy to the famous young Master Gu in M City. She was very dissatisfied with his wife and wanted to kill her. Mrs. Gu was once rumored to be arrogant, selfish, and idiotic. According to insiders, someone was jealous that she was favored by young Master Gu and deliberately fabricated rumors to slander her. Mrs. Gu, who kept a low profile and cared about the big picture, never stepped forward to clarify things. Little did she know that her low profile and kindness made the mistress even more arrogant. The mistress even said that she wanted to kill our Mrs. Gu. She injured Mrs. Gu in the basement parking lot of Gu Chun's building. Fortunately, the police arrived in time. Otherwise, Mrs. Gu would have been beaten to death by the mistress. Looking at the person in the video and listening to the host's explanation, it simply aroused public anger. The people hated mistresses the most, and this mistress was a foreigner. She actually came to their country and bullied their Mrs. Gu. In order to climb up the social ladder, she actually dared to kill someone else's wife. She even relied on her identity as a princess to be extremely arrogant. Even if the person involved could tolerate it, the netizens couldn't. This video, which had only been uploaded for a few minutes, almost blew up the entire internet. Chapter 463. This video had only been uploaded for a few minutes, but it almost blew up the entire internet. From an 80-year-old old lady to an 8-year-old little girl, everyone hated the two women who bullied Song Woo-yo in the video so much that their teeth itched. The clothes that Song Woo-yo had recently designed were sold through the Gu clan's market. The designs were beautiful, the prices were not expensive, and the sales were leading. Previously, a reporter had interviewed Song Woo-yo and asked her why the clothes she designed were the most beautiful, but why were they the cheapest in Gu Chun's chain store. Song Woo-yo replied, "I don't want people to like the clothes I designed but be disappointed because they can't afford them." This sentence instantly made many people look at her in a new light. Even the socialites who had been jealous of her were shocked by her temperament and calmness after seeing her in person. They had no choice but to admire this woman who was doted on by Gu Yanhao. What made people like her even more was that when the highway explosion happened some time ago, while she was worried about her unconscious husband, she personally comforted the families of the victims and went to the hospital to visit the injured. She even gave them high compensation and apologized to them. Their families could deeply feel her. While she sincerely apologized, she was also extremely worried about her husband who had not woken up. Her sincerity made all the families of the victims not have a trace of resentment towards them. On the contrary, they were quite resentful towards Qing Wanduo, who had instigated the incident. However, Qing Wanduo was President Qing Jianxin's adopted daughter, so they did not dare to say anything. Now that they had seen this video, some of the families of the victims could no longer tolerate this kind of bullying of ordinary people just because they were relatives of the royal family. Hence, they went to the presidential palace to make a scene and asked Qing Jianxin to give them justice. The video of them making a scene at the presidential palace was quickly filmed and posted online. After netizens saw it, they came to join in the fun. They heard the families of the victims say that the highway explosion was caused by Qing Wanduo trying to kill Song Wuyo. However, after the incident, Qing Wanduo only arrogantly admitted that she did it without any sincerity. She did not ask about the casualties, nor did she give any compensation. The victims, Mrs. Gu, personally visited them, comforted them, and compensated them. Such words instantly aroused the anger of the people who came to watch the show. They also joined in, arguing, protesting, and shouting that Li Xinxin and Qing Wanduo were not allowed to harm their goddess, Song Wuyo. In front of the presidential palace, the castle known as the Dragon Palace, the wide square, and the wide road leading to the highway were all filled with people. Their slogan was, "Hand over Li Xinxin and give justice to our goddess. Take down the mistress, execute Li Xinxin, and give Wuyo peace." There was a sea of people, shouting and yelling loudly. The scene was very heroic, mighty, sensational, and stirred up people's hearts. Some of the onlookers, who hadn't watched the video and didn't know the cause and effect of the incident, were also excited when they saw such a grand scene. They shouted with the original team, "Hand over Li Xinxin and give justice to our goddess. Take down the mistress, execute Li Xinxin, and give Wuyo peace." This was the first time President Qing Jianxin had faced such public anger since he became president. In the crowd, there were old people, children, and even people with disabilities. Entrepreneurs, socialites, high school students, ordinary people. Almost everyone in M City was here. In front and back of the Dragon Palace, wherever there was an open space, it was packed with people. Their slogan was, "Hand over Li Xinxin and give justice to our goddess."
Chapter 464. Take down Xiao San, execute Li Xinxin, and return peace to Wuyo. Don't bully others. Our lives are our lives too. In the huge office of the president, even with the windows closed, the cheers outside were still deafening. President Qing Jianxin was so angry that he was breathing rapidly. His chest was heaving up and down. His neck was thick and red, and the muscles on his face were tense. His sharp and fierce eyes stared angrily at Qing Wanduo and Li Xinxin, who were standing in front of him. "I warned you about the highway explosion last time. How long has it been, and now you're in trouble again?" Qing Jianxin pointed outside the window and said word by word, "Look. The entire K nation is protesting. How are we going to deal with this? Use the gun to kill a few of them. Kill the chicken to warn the monkey. They won't dare to cause trouble anymore if they're scared." Li Xinxin said indifferently. "How dare you?" Qing Jianxin's square face twisted as he stared at Li Xinxin. "This is K nation, not your L nation. How about I kill the chicken to warn the monkey?" Li Xinxin pursed her lips and looked at Qing Jianxin. She thought to herself, what a coward. Wanduo, how do you think we should deal with this? Cheng Wanduo looked at Cheng Wanduo sharply. Cheng Wanduo looked at Li Xinxin and suggested, Xinxin, why don't you apologize to them? Li Xinxin smiled arrogantly. I only know how to kill. I don't know how to apologize. If you don't apologize, don't even think about appearing in K-Nation. Qing Jianxin said coldly. Li Xinxin blinked and looked at Qing Jianxin innocently. I don't have to appear in K-Nation. What about those people outside? You're getting more and more presumptuous. Qing Junhua hurriedly walked in, his sharp eyes were filled with anger. After sharply sweeping a glance at them, he walked to Qing Jianxin's side and said in a deep voice, Uncle, in my opinion, you have to take out your dignity to punish them. Qing Jianxin looked at Qing Junhua sternly. How do you want to punish them? An imperceptible light flashed across Qing Junhua's eyes. Qing Junhua looked at Qing Jianxin. Kill the chicken to warn the monkey. Although Xian and Wanduo were in the wrong, they didn't put the president of a country in their eyes and dared to cause trouble in the Dragon Palace. If Uncle flinches this time, they will come to make trouble whenever they want in the future. What's the difference between the Dragon Palace and a hotel? After listening, Li Xinxin nodded and agreed with Qing Junhua's words. Decisive means are the best way to govern the people. As the president, how can he tolerate the protests of the people? If they were in Country L, they would have been turned into a hornet's nest. Well said. Kill the chicken to warn the monkey. Do you want me to make a demonstration? Qing Jianxin's face was very gloomy. Hand over Li Xinxin and bring justice to our goddess.
Take down the mistress, execute Li Xinxin, and give Weo peace. Outside, the cheers continued. Because of the passage of time, more and more people came, and the scene became more and more heroic. They shouted for a long time, but the president did not hand over Li Xinxin. Some people even wanted to break into the Dragon Palace. The police, Qing Jianxin's subordinates, the bodyguards of the Dragon Palace, and the special agents could not stop them even with guns. Without Qing Jianxin's permission, they did not dare to shoot at the crowd. With so many people, if they opened fire and angered the people, the consequences would be unimaginable. There was strength in numbers. They broke into the Dragon Palace and stepped on the special agents who tried to stop them. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.